Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us today on our Channel Marketing Academy's group chat, where today we're going to be talking about what marketers learned from the Partner Marketing Group's 2025 Technology Marketing Benchmark and Trends Report. So, thank you so much for being here. I'd like to say thank you to our CMA sponsors to start the ERP and CRM software blog, as well as the Partner Marketing Group. They help us keep the lights on every month and are always here volunteering their time to keep this show running. Like I do every month, I'm gonna remind you guys to ask questions. Please, put them in the chat. Sharing is caring. If you have any other insights that you hear, we'd love to hear them. And also, I'm like as my last one for 2025, if you guys can, want to get off mute, show your faces, and ask the question live, we are all about that as well. So last but definitely not least, Anya and Michelle will be monitoring the chat because y'all know, doing two things at once is hard for me. So if you have a question and I don't get to it right away, they will keep me on track. So thank you. And just because we ignored it doesn't mean you can't ask two questions. I'm being greedy on the last one of the year. So, what we're going to be doing today is we're really going to be digging into key insights from the report, and our panel of experts are going to break down real world marketing trends from budget shifts over to which tactics have been the most performing for them over the upcoming year. And, I would be amiss if I didn't say the word AI within the first 5 minutes of something like this. So, yeah, here we go. So hopefully this will allow you to I definitely need more rocket ships in my life. So now you got me off my chi here. Okay, focus, Tanya, focus. So hopefully you walk away with some interesting insights, and to help you avoid any common missteps that you might see as you're planning for the upcoming year, because you all know that marketing just isn't a science, it's also an art. So, with that being said, I would like to introduce you to my three panelists today. Let's start with you, Ken. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
So I'm Ken Jacobson from the TM Group. I entered this space in 1998 as a ERP salesperson. And one of my first prospects actually asked if he's really going to have to get color monitors for all his employees. So the industry has changed quite a bit since I first started. I've been with TM Group for 24 years, and I started as a salesperson there, but then I ran the sales and marketing team for 12 years. And for the last 4 years, I've been 100% focused on marketing.
Uh, Thanks. I'm sure you have a lot to tell us about how you guys are seeing the shifts. Maybe not in the last 20, but we can look at it even in the last year. I'm sure you've seen a lot.
I can
So,
go back to
uh,
16 with my first job at McDonald's if you want. So,
that now I'm getting hungry. So, okay, focus, Tanya, focus. Mary, how about you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I'm Mary Miller. I'm the Director of Marketing at PayTrace, and I'm also the marketing chair on the board of Directions North America. Tanya said we could do shameless plugs. So in case you missed it, registration and call for speakers are open. Check out the website, look for the social posts, all the things. And I started in this community initially in the early 90s, actually worked for a CPA firm that is now one of the largest partners in the community. I've worked with Ken and his team and many others over the years, and I spent about the last 10 years before joining PayTrace on the AP side with a company called QuickTag, and I've been at PayTrace for about 2.5 years, and we do B2B payments and accounts receivable automation. And when I'm not working, I like to play pickleball, go on cruises. I'm mom of four and nana of six, so I like having fun.
And staying busy, apparently, because that's quite the list. And thanks for being here. Definitely not last, but not definitely not least. Kate, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hello, good afternoon. I am Kate Coffee Bacon. I am SVP of Strategy and Marketing at US Transactions Corporation. We have a payment integration into Business Central. Mary and I get asked the question all the time, so I have to just say it. Are you direct competitors? Yes and no. Yes and no. like Mary Patrace is one of our very top referred gateways. So I just like to say it, Mary. I like to just say yes and no. But so let's see, I've been in the channel for, I just hit 3 years. UST Pay went live on AppSource 3 years ago. So we went to Summit. This was my fourth Summit and met Mary, I think, at my first Summit. And just really thrilled to be here. The changes in marketing are phenomenally exciting right now, and so to talk about those and kind of guess what's coming next, I'm really looking forward to this conversation for the next hour. And let's see, something fun about me. Let's see, I am the oldest of five kids. I have 3 kids of my own, 2 amazing bonus kids, 4 dogs. I have a little podcast called Coffee Talk. And in my free time, whenever that is, I really love listening to music and sipping on margaritas. There you go.
I am with you on the margarita bit at any time, Kate. So we are going to get right to it. We're going to mix things up a bit this time. I'm going to share my screen. So it took us 4 years. We had our 4-year anniversary of the channel marketing group. But this is the first time we're actually sharing. So my screen, anything can happen now, no holds bar. So here we go. We're off to the races. So the first question we have is around planning and strategy. We see that converting leads to opportunity is consistently on top of the marketing challenge list. Um, why do you think that is? And how do you think that companies can overcome this? So, Ken, how about you start us off?
Sure. I mean, obviously, it has to do with, marketing has to do with driving leads and driving new business. So everyone's always very concerned about how many leads they're generating and then how do they convert those to opportunities. At TM Group, we kind of measure things a little differently. So we actually talk about leads as being active prospects that are sales ready. So those are people that we're turning over. We create opportunities in the CRM system, and then we send it to the sales manager that assigns it to a sales rep to follow up. So other people, I think when people talk about converting leads, they usually talk about what we call prospects, which are just people that have come to an event or downloaded an asset or registered with our newsletter. And I don't really worry about those as much. We continue to try and stay top of mind with them and nurture them. But we are more concentrated actually on finding those people that are looking for a new system right now. So lots of times those people that come in, they could sit nurturing for a couple years, and I'm okay with that as long as I have a decent volume of, sales qualified opportunities coming in.
Love the nurture bit in there. I think that's the key to it is I want those who are ready now, but I'm not going to toss away all of those that aren't ready to go yet. So I think that is key. And how everyone has a different way of how they um, qualify or what they call different things. That's super important too. That within your own organization, that you have that benchmark of, for us, conversion means this, because even between the three of us here today, we might have a different way of looking at it. So, Mary, what about you? How do you think some companies can overcome this?
Yeah, I think part of the challenge is that as marketers, we want to think that leads are one size fits all, that all leads are ready to talk to us, ready to be educated, ready to be talked to by a salesperson, as Ken just described, assigned out from a CRM. And I think the challenge is that we have to remind ourselves that at any given moment in time, only 5 to 7% of our target market, of all the people who could potentially ever want to buy our solutions, are in the market, in the buying cycle at that moment. Only 5 to 7%. So I think our job as marketers is to look at conversion as an education, a nurturing, to the point that Ken made and that Tanya emphasized, nurturing and educating those people so that when they do fit into that 5 to 7%, they have the messages they need, they have the support they need, they have the resources they need. And I think another element of that is as the buying journey has evolved, as the buying committee has evolved. Kate and I do a session at multiple events and with some others in the community on buying committee and how that fits into this type of decision. Converting a lead isn't converting one person anymore. It's converting Ken as the decision maker, Kate as the influencer, maybe Mary as somebody who's doing some research and sending that information along. We all have different roles, and so we're marketing to different roles in that process. Lead conversion isn't the standard straight funnel anymore. If we educated them, now they're engaged, now they're going to close. So I think keeping people nurtured and educated throughout that cycle so that when they do fit into that 5 to 7%, we know what touch points influence that along the way so that when we get to the point of conversion, we can see what things are working and what things aren't. I don't think conversion is a single point in time activity anymore.
No, very well said. And I think that whole notion of a buying committee too, that's something that I've seen the shift in our industry that we used to like, oh, if we only talk to the controller or the IT person, that's all we need. And that's not the case anymore. So that 5 to 7, you have to convince 5 to 7 of your 5 to 7%. So great point there. And I think we have to think about that when we're doing our nurture too, to make sure that we're not just talking to one person and when they're forwarding it, the other people in that buying committee recognize themselves as well. So let's continue along because we've got other challenges here in marketing. So the next one, lack of time is always considered the biggest challenge when creating original content. But is it really a lack of time or is it more of a lack of a priority? Because we can all say that we lack time with everything. So, Mary, I'm going to throw it back to you. So, do you think it's really a lack of time?
So I think it's both. I think it's both a lack of time and I think it's a lack of priority. But I also think it's this notion that as marketers, sometimes we get into the every content piece has to be a novel. If I don't
Mm.
have, hours and hours to write or to outline something that's going to become a video or a white paper or a thing with a thing, then I shouldn't do it. And I think we have to get past that and break down the novel into what are the chapters of the story? What's the problem that we're trying to solve? How are we going to help this? What other stories do we have that we can relate to that help people understand the challenge and how to overcome it? So if we break it down, format it one piece at a time, then we can reuse, we can repurpose, we can re-educate so that back to that, buying committee and buying journey story, that every person in that audience has a chapter that resonates with them. So maybe I look at the big picture of the content creation and say, well, the IT person wants the tech specs and the details and how it integrates with all of their different systems. I get one of my solutions engineers to tell that part of the story because they're the subject matter expert in that, whether it's writing a quick blog or just interviewing them. And then we write the blog. We'll draft the material that's going to support that. That's one chapter. But then it's the ROI for the CMO, for the CRO, for the CIO, for the CTO, whoever else, the CFO that needs to be involved in that process. What's their message? What's their chapter? Get another customer who lives in that role, who lives in that world to tell that chapter of the story. So break it down piece by piece, and eventually all the chapters may become a novel, but you don't have to tackle it all as a novel at once. So break it down so you can reuse and repurpose along the way.
No, super good. Yeah, and I think that's it. Like, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a
One
time.
bite at a
And
time.
it's really that. And also, our attention spans have gotten shorter and shorter. I can't consume, a whole book anymore. I only need to do like chunks at a time. So by looking at it by chapters, like you said, yes, you have the whole vision in your head, but it doesn't mean that you have to wait till it's all ready to go before you put it out there because things are moving so fast now that maybe by the time you get to the end, it's time
It
to go
changes.
back, goes back to chapter one exactly. So strike while the iron is hot and let's look at chapters and chewing that elephant one bite at a time. What about you, Ken? How do you see this challenge?
Sorry, what was the question again? I drifted off there a
Oh,
minute ago. No,
no, no problem.
I'm just, I'm just teasing, just teasing.
I'm like, I know I drag. So I was like, oh, I did it again.
Just a demonstration of the short attention spans. Um, no, I agree with Mary. I think it's both. And I do think that the time constraint actually nowadays should be more on the subject matter experts, access to them than really on the marketing side. We found internally it works a lot better for us if we schedule like a 30-minute conversation, with a team member or a couple of team members to talk about a topic. And then we'll record that. And with the auto transcribing, we'll use AI to basically take that auto transcribing and kind of create a blog from that. And, we don't trust that it's doing what we want. So often I'll write an outline of what it is that I want so that I know that I'm getting in that auto transcription and the AI translation that I'm getting the points across that I want. AI is not perfect, so it really needs someone knows what they're doing to kind of review it and make sure that you're getting the right points, because otherwise it will completely gloss over like your three top points that you want to make because it tends to condense things. And by making an outline, it also helps us chunk through it. It seems like AI does better saying, give me this, give me this, give me this, than give me these three things. Um, and then the other thing I'd say is that, we talk about priorities and having enough time to do things. Well, one of the biggest constraints we actually have is with the subject matter experts because we want them after we've written that blog to review it. So one of the things we do is actually give them a deadline saying, I need this back by Wednesday, otherwise it's being published as is. Um, Partly I feel comfortable about knowing the subject matter. If it's something I'm not comfortable with or something I know our president is going to have some real opinions on, like something having to do with GP to BC transitions. That kind of stuff, I'm not going to publish without actually having them look at it first. But by scheduling meetings with people and just allowing them to talk, because a lot of our team members love to talk, and then using, AI to help us write those blogs quicker, and then telling them that, hey, they have to review it, not just write something for us. We found that it allows us to create a lot of content quickly.
Oh, great tips. And I am so with you. The number of people who get stage fright when they have to write a single sentence, but ask them about a topic and you're off to the races for hours, present company included. So I totally get it. And I think that's a great tip. And now with AI, that'll, okay, these are my highlights. You do you now. I think that's a great way to get more out there quickly. And by getting them also to be like, hey, you have until Wednesday, it prioritizes things too. Like your calendar, you're trying to keep it up there and not being so um wishy-washy with like when things have to go out because it's important that you stay on track with things. So great tips there. And now we're going to move to our third topic, and I think that's a great segue into content. So is there a correlation between the types of content actively used and how easy they are to produce or distribute? Um, we've kind of touched upon it a bit already, but should we invest more time into bigger ticket items, uh, quantity over quantity, and all of those things? Kate, why don't you kick us off? What do you think?
Yeah, so I love this question, and I want to back up just really quickly because I feel like this applies to with what Mary was saying about your buying committee. So the average person is going to consume 13 pieces of content before they even click contact me. So you have 13 opportunities, whether that be your videos, your blogs, your website, your videos on social, event interactions. You have 13 times to reach all those different members of the buying committee. So it's not like you've got to get out one piece of content and it's got to reach everybody. So each content should be tailored for a different member of that buying committee. So I did just want to say that you got 13 chances. You got a minute. So I do think that there is a correlation for what we saw in the report was that the types of content that marketers are using the most often, like blogs, your website updates, newsletters, social posts. Those are also the fastest and the easiest to produce. So as marketers, we know them. We're familiar with them. Those of us that have been in marketing for a while have been using them for a while. So they're very familiar to us. They're manageable pieces of content for smaller teams, and they don't necessarily need a big lift in planning or production. But when you look at what is actually driving the results, it's the opposite. The opposite is true. So the top performing pieces of content that we saw in this data were the webinars, the ebooks, white papers, video. And one thing I want to say about 2 of the 4 of those is 2 of the 4 of those are very people driven. It's people in front of other people. It's people directly creating relationship with other people to show that they are trustworthy. And I think that's a big key as we move into the future of marketing and what that looks like for us. People want to see mouths moving. They don't just want to see words on pages, because words on pages can be written by AI. And they want to know the people that they can connect with and trust. So it's not lost on me that 2 of the 4 most effective pieces of marketing right now have to do with people and relationship. So those pieces, webinars, your ebooks, white papers, video, those pieces of content do take more time. They take more coordination of teams. They can take definitely more creativity to pull those things off. So the things that are maybe harder to produce, that aren't just fast, use a transcript, put out a blog, those tend to be the things that are moving the needle most in engagement and in lead quality. So to me, what that says is we need to start thinking less about filling our content calendars and more about creating pieces of content that are cornerstones. So content that can be repurposed for longer life in different ways, targeted to different audiences for different needs in consumption. So a single webinar, we've heard this before, a single webinar can be converted into 5 different pieces of content. So that's short video series, blogs, social clips, things like that. So that's how you can scale quality instead of just mass producing quantity. So yeah, I'll give somebody else. Content is a hot topic for me, so I can keep on going with that. But I think I want to say one more thing. I think next year, what we will see, I am like front row for these kind of emerging trends that are some things are changing. I think what we're going to see is that teams that are going to stand out are the ones that are producing fewer pieces of content, but those pieces of content are smarter. They're more strategic. And it's going to position them as true thought leaders. And those pieces of content are actually going to convert over those leads into business done.
And you know what? That's what we want. We want some business done here. And that pendulum swish, whatever,
Swing.
that swing back to, less is more, but have it doing really well. I think we're gonna see that. We went through that. Oh, we can get out as much stuff as we want. This AI is fabulous. And now I think everyone's like, okay, the jig is up. We are seeing that that quality versus quantity thing. Yeah, it was great at the beginning, but now let's get back to real life and having voices, lips move and seeing real people. I think that is a great thing to look out for. And when you break it down that way, like take that one piece and break it down into 13 smaller things, there's your 13 touches. So not so scary, because we've thrown out some scary numbers to date. So the juice is worth the squeeze. What about you, Mary? Is the juice worth the squeeze when it comes to higher quantity over quality, or no, quality over quantity?
Yeah, I agree with Kate, and I think that there's also the concept, kind of going back to our initial question around lead conversion. When we say what are the most or best performing pieces of content or examples of content, I think what we see here are what might be that last attribution, right? It might be one of the last few touches that somebody engages with before we go, oh yeah, so that's what made them convert. But also to Kate's point about those other 13 touches, excuse me, you don't know which other ones might have influenced that decision that made them go to the webinar, right? Because all of those other things lead up to that piece. But I also think there's an element of industry here. So if we think about the typical GP and BC users in the market, the industries there are manufacturing, distribution, professional services, right? 40% of GP's customer base was manufacturing. We're seeing a strong conversion now with 50,000 Business Central users that are continuing to increase and focus in the manufacturing distribution space. Put yourself in the mindset of the manufacturing professional who might often be, you know, in the field, in a warehouse, overseeing multiple different projects at the same time. Do they have time to watch a webinar? Do they have time to read a blog or a white paper? No, but they might have time for a couple quick social posts or a video, and they might have somebody else who is in the office or has a little bit more time to think about those things, read a white paper, read a case study, read a blog, those kinds of things. So put yourself in the mind of the industry professional that we're really talking to in the Dynamics community as well. I think that's important. Whereas on the other hand, the professional services organizations probably spend a lot of time with their feet under the desks, just like we all right now are here, you know, so they have more time to log into a webinar, attend a session like this, read a white paper, read a blog, read a case study, those sorts of things. They might also want to see the summary and video and social posts from time to time. But I think if you put yourselves in the minds of what is the primary decision maker and influencer in this industry going to respond to, again, you have to create them all, but create them all in mini bite-sized pieces so that you're telling the story to the people that matter along the way. So I do think there's an element of both quantity and quality. And I think there's an overlay of who we're talking to in the Dynamics community.
If I had my air horn sound, I would have it going off right now. If anyone has listened to the sessions before, I am a big believer in industry-based marketing. So when you say that and like, oh, everyone looks at things in a different way, yes, go back, shameless plug, go back and watch last month's on niche marketing because we talked about it there as well. And so important that you're speaking to the right people at the right time. So, I think we have a theme going on here when it comes to content and, you know, lots of getting the things out at the right time and to the right people. And I'm sure it will keep going as we move on to our next topic, which is all about like what people see and what they want to show. And this is when we're asking questions about SEO and SEM and how are those efforts measured by, um, is it really the number of leads that are generated? Is that a good vanity metric or is that a good metric you should be tracking? Ken, how do you measure this or how do you look at this within your organization?
Well, with my sales background, it always comes down to leads. So I'm measuring everything against that, but we do pay really close attention on where those, especially new business leads are coming from, like how many are coming from the website, how many are people actually calling our office, because quite a few still do that. Um, of course, they're getting routed through the voicemail system
Mm,
nowadays. They're not really getting a receptionist. And then how many are coming from pay-per-click? So we last year implemented a HubSpot. So it's really easy to see where all those things are coming from these days. But kind of like Mary was saying, you can't just assume that because someone was a direct traffic lead to your website and then they submitted a form that, rarely is that like a one and done thing. Usually they're seeing ads and they're reading posts and they're hiding they're not registering for email newsletters because everyone gets way too many these days. So you don't know exactly where they came from. And I think it was Kate that said, typically you're touching them with 13 different pieces of content before they're converting into an actionable opportunity. So, all those things work together and build together. And I don't, as much as we're into technology and technology companies, You can't really understand exactly how all that stuff's fitting together. And I also don't like putting all my eggs in one basket. So I kind of make sure that I spread my efforts around. But I definitely watch really closely, especially with pay-per-clicks and stuff, to see whether or not we're getting decent conversions on those sorts of campaigns.
No, that's important. Setting it and forgetting it. You don't know how much money you're spending, or all of a sudden you're like, how much money did I spend? And that's kind of like, my evening online shopping. So that's never a good idea. So yes, track it as you're going along is the most important. So Mary, how about you? How do you measure? How do you track? And um, how do you do it internally?
Yeah, so I think, back in the day, SEO and SEM kind of used to fall into the same bucket. And it was all about, just getting traffic to your website and then they would fill out the form and become a lead, like Ken just described. I think what we've seen over time, SEO is much more about organic, not just traffic, of course, because sometimes they'll, pull up in the top 10 and so you're listed first or second. So they click through, they may or may not even been paying attention to what they were clicking on. And so SEO needs to be treated differently from a ranking perspective. Where does your website ranking? Is your content really relevant for the audience that's searching those terms? And now add in to that factor the AI element, where AI is deciding what should be your summary that you used to be able to review all those. Now you got to get past the AI summary that thinks it knows what you're looking for. So I think we're going to have to be really careful about how we treat SEO and the AI generated results from natural search, and look at that, make sure we're writing to rank in those categories, but also make sure that it's relevant for us. Because if you're coming up in a search that's not relevant, you don't want that traffic either, because it's really going to skew your results. SEM, absolutely. When you can put together your campaign, it's still very logical to track, this ad created this number of leads, this many people converted. And so absolutely, I think that is still going to be a strong measurement of leads, traffic, and conversion. I just think we're going to need to really be careful about where we segment that SEM and SEO line over time, especially with the influence of AI.
No, definitely. I think there's still this gray cloud that we all talk about, but we don't really know what it is yet. So definitely something that we have to track. And the other thing that you said that I think people forget often is you have to not only track what's converting well, but also what's not. Stop paying for those clicks that aren't converting on your website. That's money. I hate wasting money, so that's one place where I think everyone can really optimize on their searches on if people are clicking there but not converting, look at that and see if there's something that you can optimize there. So money saver topic of the day. And, I think that's a great segue into our commercial break, where we are going to thank our CMA patrons for spending their money with us and supporting our cause and keeping this chat free and keeping our academy rolling every month. So a special thank you to Vicinity, UST Pay, Partner Talks, MSDW, Marketeeri, and OMSI for their continued support. And here's my shameless plug once again. If anyone wants to sponsor us in the upcoming year, please go check out the link that Anya just posted in the chat. We want to keep this available to as many marketers as possible. So there's my shameless plug of the day. So thank you, everyone, and thank you for all of your continued support. And thank you to our listeners. You guys keep us doing this and going, are we going to do this for another quarter? And then here we are 4 years later. So thanks again. And now back to our regularly scheduled program, where we will now be talking about marketing tools and tactics. So we started talking about what we should track, and now we are going to talk about how we're going to track this. So let's talk vanity metrics. I think we all know them, love them, and hate them at the same time. So how can we change our perspectives? Or shouldn't we? Should we just, accept them? I is who I is, and just have to educate more the people are around us. So Kate, why don't you kick us off on this one?
Vanity metrics. So I think click-through rates can be a vanity metric, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. So on its own, a click-through rate tells you who clicked, but not necessarily who cared. So the report shows us that most marketers see an average click rate of 2 to 5%, which sounds decent, but without any kind of context, that number doesn't really mean a whole lot to me. So where a click-through rate can become valuable for me as I'm monitoring, as I'm looking at my analytics, is when it's connected to a behavior after the click. So did that person download something? Did they watch a video? Did they schedule a demo? Was that 13? Was that the magic number 13 that pushed them? I will tell a story about a partner of Directions a couple of years ago. Someone that has never, ever engaged with anything I have ever posted in the whole history of ever. And he came
Shame.
up to me at Directions at my booth and said, I've been looking for you. I want a demo. I was like, I will continue doing what I'm doing. Never has he ever clicked on anything. I never clicked on anything. So are vanity metrics important? Yes. What comes after is more important to me. The engagement, the connection that comes afterwards is more important to me. So I wouldn't throw it out completely. I would just give it maybe a little bit of a promotion and say click-through rate can be a signal for interest, also proof of impact. The goal, I think this is my answer. The goal shouldn't be getting someone to click. It should be getting someone to connect and to continue connecting to your brand.
Air horn sound effect. Once again, I think that is it. Is that connection is going to be so much more important as we search for this humanizing our marketing and our brand behind it. And never underestimate the creepers who are lingering in the background and just, kind of watching, and then all of a sudden pop out of the woodworks. You'll be surprised that some of these people are going to be our biggest fans later on. So, Ken, creepers, no creepers, what kind of vanity metrics are you into?
Well, I think kind of like Kate was saying, I think sometimes searching these specific measurements like open rates or click-through rates, they're not, it's not perfect. People are hiding their identities. So someone could actually be reading your stuff and you have no idea. So I think it's probably useful over time to be able to compare maybe how your emails are doing as opposed to looking at it as an absolute like measurement of, 5% of my list actually read my email. It's more of trends. Like if you're seeing that you've been getting a 20% open rate and that continues to go down, that there's probably a problem there with either your list or your messaging. But the other thing I wanted to kind of highlight is, because when we talk about click-through rates and open rates and stuff, we're usually talking about email marketing. And I want to talk a little bit about our clients because I feel like emails become really, really more important for keeping in contact with our clients as opposed to prospective customers. And you know, it, it's one of those biggest challenges that I think we have versus like, because how many people will read, the clients will read. There'll be things like if we're running a client event, we'll ask them to RSVP that if they can't make it, we'll take them off the email list. And that helps us actually know that they're reading the email and then they don't continue to get emails inviting them. So that's worked really well in the past. And then the other thing is the biggest challenge that, I've had for decades is getting those client emails because, how do we get our staff, even if they're using CRM and stuff, is it really making our way into our marketing lists that we're getting those email addresses? So one of the things that we did was actually connect our help desk so that it's actually feeding email addresses into our CRM system that we can review and make sure that we're getting all of our customer contacts. And by running customer events like webinars or in-person events, that's also helped a lot with building our customer contact list because they'll forward that to someone else on their team who they feel should be going, and they'll sign up and come. And now we've got that new contact to nurture and build relationships with in our CRM system.
Great. I think when we think marketing, we sometimes not forget on purpose, but we kind of side eye our clients and how big of a client base that is, especially now for those we want them to move from GP to BC. They become almost our target audience in a lot of companies. So I think those are great points, and to connect your help desk to your CRM to your marketing list. I think that that's the best way to know you hear the tree fall in the forest now because people are actually getting those emails. So great tips for everyone listening out there. So now our final stat or topic, where would we be without AI? So let's dive into this, where it says 81% of marketers are using AI for content creation and optimization. Where are you using AI in marketing, and what would you recommend? I know we already kind of touched upon this, but if we have any additional tips or tools that we've been using, by all means, Mary, do you have any additional ones to add?
I do. And I think the way that I think about AI, in my favorite way to love it, if you will, although to your point, we do have sort of a love-hate relationship right now, it's that start with an outline of what you're trying to accomplish or what you want it to do. So I use it in all of the above examples that you shared, and I encourage my team to do it when it makes sense for automation and efficiency. However, don't let it take over who you are, what your voice is, what your message is. If you start with an outline and ask it to refine it and it comes back with 2 minor edits, you're like, all right, I'm doing something right here. I think I got this pretty much dialed in. If it comes back with a 50% rewrite, then I'm not just going to accept that 50% rewrite. I'm going to say, okay, what of this is actually relevant? Or did I ask the prompt correctly with the outline or the information that I started with? So I think it's important for refining ideas. I think it's important for gaining efficiencies. I think it's important for tailoring things for a specific audience or decision maker role or influencer or industry, all the things that we've talked about today, where it can help sort of make that more precise and relevant for each segment of the audience we're trying to reach. I don't ever think it should be the source. I don't ever think it's going to replace us, because we still need to apply a human element of evaluation and assessment and context and correctness and all of those things, just like the search engine results. That's never going to be perfect, but we have to be able to leverage it where it makes sense. And in the context of data analysis is something that I have found it to be super helpful, even in looking through this report that thank you guys for putting out for 11 years. It's amazing. I look forward to it every year. I look forward to participating in it, and I look forward to reading it after all the research has been compiled. But as you look at data like this, you can ask AI to say, hey, put together the top trends of where things are most effective. What are marketers of this company size doing the most of that they're seeing results from? Those sorts of things. Data analysis is huge, because that it's pretty good with data. It's more subjective with content. So use it where it makes sense, use it to be efficient, but make sure that it doesn't take away who you are.
Love. I think that doesn't take away about who you are, and keeping that human element to it is so important. Ken, you already said a lot of your AI tips and tricks earlier. Do you have any uh, final ones to add?
Well, I know when we were talking about what we were going to cover today, one of the things was where could I start? And, I hope everyone on this call, I think I saw there were more than 20 people on, are already using it. But if not, I would encourage people to kind of start by maybe to have using AI to create social posts based on the content that you're putting together, whether it's a blog or an ebook. The other thing that I started doing with AI is I changed the way I ask for things. Instead of asking it to proof something, I ask it to check something, because when I ask it to proof, it makes a lot more changes to my voice when I'm writing than if I ask it just to check it for like grammar and punctuation.
Ooh, good tip. I think all of us we go straight to proof writing and proof editing, but yeah, no, I just want to make sure that dotted my T's and crossed my I's, pun intended there. So yeah, I think that is a great tip. I think it's super important for me when I'm speaking to AI that I speak to it like a 4-year-old. I ask it very specific things one at a time, just to make sure that it gets through those. So if anyone has lived with a 4-year-old, you are probably a prompt engineer and you don't even know it yet. So that takes us through our major topics of what the report shared with us. But there are some other things that were there any specific metrics or findings from the report that you found actionable, or you're like, oh, I'm going to take that nugget and use it in my own marketing? Um, Ken, why don't you keep the ball rolling with us here?
Well, when I was reading through the report, and by the way, I use this report every year when I'm preparing my marketing budget and presenting to our management staff. And I usually pull out key metrics and findings from the report to kind of make the points that I'm trying to make to the management staff and skipping those that I don't want to make. Um, but the one of the things that I took out of this, and then Kate kind of touched on it on this call too, was webinars, because webinars is something that we have done for many, many years, and we kind of stopped doing them because we found that people were more interested kind of on-demand videos. They didn't want to do a webinar. But like Kate said, in this new dawn of AI, people want to talk to people. So I think revisiting webinars is something that I'm definitely, I've already prepared my marketing budget for next year, but I'm gonna make an adjustment to that plan because I want to look at how we could try and incorporate one-to-many webinars as a sales tool again, because as I said, we moved away from it.
No, I think it's super interesting to when you're reading those things, it gives you those aha moments. And you're like, oh yeah, and I use it as a sales tool too. Like, look at their marketing budgets compared to mine.
Yeah.
Like, so I
Let
think
me know
that's
if that
one
works for
place.
you.
Oh no, 15 years later, I'm still trying. I'm like, one of these years it's gonna come through. Kate, what about you? Are there any metrics or things that you saw?
Yeah, a couple of things. I mean, I'm going to be bold. Safe, brave space. It's printed. It's printed with notes all throughout, with tags on it. And I'm going to give this entire thing to my team and say, here's what I think. Here's what I think we should do. Here's what I think we should change. And one thing that I saw was that the majority of the responders in this are revisiting their marketing plan, their strategy once a quarter. Bravo, because things are changing so rapidly right now. You have got to revisit what you're doing frequently to make sure that you are landing with generating those leads. So a couple of things that really jumped out with me. First of all, webinars allow me to do a shameless plug right now.
Mm.
UST Education, we do over 200 events a year, 200 webinars. They are absolutely no charge to you to present. If you are interested in presenting your thought leadership, these are eligible for free CPE CAE credits. So it is thought leadership, it's not sales. 1 hour sessions. If you would like to present, please, please, please send me an email. I would love to host you on UST Education. You'll see lots of familiar faces on that lineup. So there's that. Webinars are effective. As we have seen with UST Education and all the work that we've done around there, people value educational experiences and personal connections, even if it's like this, even if it's on a screen. People value personal connections and they are hungry for content that teaches, doesn't sell. So they're hungry to learn, and things are changing so very quickly. Be known as a thought leader and the one that's talking about things before anybody else is. The second big takeaway for me, listen, if it's a hard topic, we're going to talk about it. Email marketing. Email marketing is still, according to this report, still the most heavily invested channel. It's where we spend our money. It's where we spend our time. But according to this report, it's also listed as the least effective for lead generation. Meow. So that disconnect really made me stop and think about how much time, how much money we as a company are putting into email versus what we're actually getting back. I literally just looked this information up to make sure that I am like current. 74% of marketers are using AI for content creation and optimization. So for me, this is kind of my last big takeaway from the report. So I have webinars and email marketing. I don't know. I'm going to say I don't know. I don't know what my strategy is going to look like with that right now, because this report really made me go, let's relook at this. So I don't have an answer right now. But AI, 74% of marketers are using AI. So it's a reminder to me that AI is here to stay. It's not optional. We're using it. It's a tool that can help us scale faster if we're using it with intention. But again, and I will say it one more time, it's still so important to be human and to have a human connection. So the real action item for me in all of this becomes balance, doubling down on what builds connection. That's what I'm putting into my marketing strategy in bigger, better ways next year. What is going to build connection? Webinars, events. We saw that events are where we're spending most of our budget, those events, and thought leadership. So using AI to help us streamline the background work that's going to get us there, so that we have more time for those webinars, which can be a lift. You have to prepare all that content. It can be a lift. So those are a couple of things. I wish I had like more insight to give into the email marketing. That was a very big, like, let me look at this and revisit this. So maybe we can talk again in a month and decide what let you know when I've decided. Because right now I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. And input, please, input.
And you know what? Maybe we were going to go off until January. Maybe that you have just came up with our January topic of, okay, email marketing. But I think what we also have to take away from that meow moment is, okay, like, do we really check back? And okay, we say that we do this the most, but it's our least effective. Are we, doing the full circle moment of looking at those things, or are we looking at them in silos? And I think that's one of the things what's great by having all of these pages back to back is like, okay, I just read this. It's not like I did this task on Monday and I did this one on Tuesday and I cleared my cache Monday night. So I think that whole circle moment of, okay, what do we really need to be looking at? So I'm seeing the time fly by. So I think that's a great segue into, the three of you looking into your marketing crystal balls, and based on this year's data, what do you think 2026 will bring? I know, Kate, we will come back in January with the email marketing, but if you have anything else that your crystal ball has been telling you, Ken, what does yours say?
Well, my crystal ball is there's one thing that came out of the report that I really want to look into. Because it said 33% of the respondents were using social listening tools. And that sounds like a third of all of us are using it. And I don't know about the rest of you. I'm not. So my crystal ball is next year I'm going to be exploring social listening tools and how I can incorporate that into my marketing.
Oh no, that's good. Yeah. And sometimes it's, oh, I didn't think that was still a thing. And then, oh, if people are still using it, these are our peers, and shameless plug, chats like this help us open our eyes to things too all the time. Mary, what about you? What does your crystal ball say?
So I'm going to point to one stat in particular, and that is that at the beginning of the document, it talks about planning and strategy, and it says an overwhelming majority, 73% of us prioritize thought leadership to educate and nurture our leads. And then there's some follow-up sections, categories, deliverables that are listed next with lower percentages, but equally important: video marketing, interactive content, leveraging AI automation, some of the things that we've talked about today. So I think my takeaway moment and look forward moment is that using that 73% of thought leadership content to educate and nurture needs to be the holistic view. Video marketing and interactive content is not a different book. AI and automation is not a different book. They're chapters of the same book. So how can we use video to be thought leadership and interactive content? How can we use AI and automation to tie the blog in that rates the snippet that relates to that initial thought leadership content? So it's, I think, using the tools as, again, part of the same story and not thinking of them as independent and unique channels or sets of deliverables the way that we used to. It used to be, you know, it was email and it was blogs and it was white papers, and each of them had a different piece. I think because the buying journey has evolved so much, the committee has evolved so much, the process of selling, the way that we interact with people now is so much more real time. I think we have to look at that as the whole story of how do I make each one of these other pieces be part of my thought leadership story so that I can continue to educate and not do a whole series about why my product is great and then go, oh wait, I thought I was supposed to tie back to this thought leadership piece. How do I tie in an example of how somebody used my product that was great into my thought leadership piece? How do I make that a video and a blog and a story? So I think it's looking at the bigger picture and as part of the overall strategy and not isolated pieces of marketing deliverables.
I think flipping the switch is a great way to kick off 2026. And Kate, I'm finishing with you. You had your meow moment. Do you have any crystal ball moments now that you'd like to add to close us out?
Yeah. So I think like looking at, again, revisiting that strategy once a quarter and look and see what are you doing, what's working, what's not, and being bold and being, you know, I'm going to completely throw this out. This isn't working. So I think if I were going to give one piece of advice, it's going to be stop confusing activity with effectiveness. Just because you're busy and throwing out tons of content doesn't mean it's landing. So look at what you are throwing out. We saw tons of contradictions in this report. No fault to the data. The data is what it is, but there were lots of contradictions. There was email marketing getting the biggest investment, but not delivering in results. We saw social media heavily tracked, but not converting. Content that's being easy, that is easy to produce, but not impactful. So looking at what you're creating, what you're pitting out, being more strategic in that, thinking about the buying committee and who you're talking to, not just throwing content out, but speak to different industries, speak to different roles. I think one more part, I think I already said it, but we are in an era where our buyers are more educated than ever. They know about us. They know what we stand for, even ethically, culturally. What is the culture of your company before they even say, "Hi, my name is," right? So when you have a buyer that's already educated about your products, they're smarter, the content is everywhere. The brands that win are not going, this is my personal opinion, okay? The brands that win are not going to be the brands that are the loudest. They are going to be the ones that are the most human. They're adding the most real value. There aren't noisy. So think about the human aspects. That's what we're seeing, right? 4 pieces of content that land, 2 of them were very, very human. So present your brand as human. That's my advice. Present as human.
Love. And I think that is the perfect way to end this show is look to 2026 and being your authentic human self from a company because they know you better than you probably know you sometimes. So be aware and look to that. So happy planning, everyone. Happy 2026. I know, yes, I said 2026 already. We will see you in January with our new set of sessions for the new year. So
Marketing, email marketing. Email marketing.
And if anyone else has any other ideas or want to be a panelist, I think that is my shameless plug to invite you to come to our 2026 season as well. So thanks again, everyone. Bye now.
Bye.
Bye.